Before Ethan left the country to reunite with Luna, he wired me a large sum of money. Along with it came a short note, "Take care of yourself." I understood the implication and didn't make a fuss. I took the money and disappeared from his world. 2 weeks later, he dragged me out of a male model's arms. "Well, aren't you living it up?" he said, smirking. I gave him an awkward grin. "Thanks to your generous breakup fund, of course." He paused, then erupted in sheer outrage. "Breakup fund, my ass, that was your freaking birthday gift one. What woke me up that morning wasn't my alarm, my dreams, or a boyfriend's good morning kiss. It was a bank notification about a deposit." Groggily, I rubbed my eyes and counted the zeros. The more I counted, the more awake I became. My shaky fingers clicked into the transaction details. 4 simple words accompanied it: "Take care of yourself." For a moment, my mind went blank. The other side of the bed was cold, and there wasn't a single trace of Ethan left in the apartment. From my years of devouring CEO romance novels on Western storytelling forums, I immediately recognized the telltale signs. I had, in all likelihood, been dumped. It wasn't particularly surprising. From the moment I got involved with Ethan, I knew this day would come. Ethan wealthy, privileged, and notoriously noncommittal. Not to mention, famously generous to his exes, always leaving them with hefty parting gifts. Now, I had first-hand experience. It was only right for me to make myself scarce. To bow out of his life gracefully. But my fingers, betraying my resolve, opened our pinned chat. I couldn't help it. A part of me still refused to accept it. Was it really possible for love to evaporate overnight? Was last night's tenderness a lie? The promises he whispered while holding me close, "I'll witness and be part of every important moment in your life," were those all lies too? Before I could dwell on it further, a new message popped up in our chat: "Did you get it?" I hadn't even mustered a reply when another message followed: "Sorry, I have to miss out. You can pick a place you like and take your time decorating it the way you want." I typed, "Why?" Then deleted it. I typed, "What did I do wrong?" Then deleted it. I typed, "Please don't leave me. I'm begging you." Then deleted it. Over and over, I typed and erased, never finding the courage to hit send. After what felt like ages, Ethan called me. His voice was as casual and languid as ever. "What are you typing? A novel? Save it. It's not that deep." Hearing the background announcements, I froze. "Where are you?" "The airport," he replied nonchalantly. My grip on the phone tightened as a terrible thought crossed my mind. My voice came out hoarse. "Flying to France?" I asked. Ethan chuckled softly. "Smart girl." And just like that, my heart shattered. I'd heard the stories how Ethan had a Luna living in France, how he'd drop everything and fly to her side at her slightest beckoning. And now I was the one being left behind. Before hanging up, Ethan reminded me not to be late for my first day at work. How considerate. Even after breaking up, he still cared about his ex-girlfriend's career. I counted the zeros in my account again and let out a sigh of relief. After consulting with my best friend, who was knee-deep in bar exam prep, I confirmed that this money was mine to keep. Without hesitation, I quit my job, blocked Ethan's number, changed my phone, and moved out of the apartment. It was seamless. I knew my role as the perfect ex-girlfriend. I had to vanish like a ghost. No texts, no calls, absolutely no lingering presence. After all, Ethan had no patience for clingy behavior. He despised it, in fact. No matter how much it hurt, I couldn't cry, couldn't cause a scene, couldn't destroy the lingering shred of fondness he had for me. The best I could do was maintain my dignity. I indulged in small luxuries like overpriced coffee, no makeup, disposable contact lenses, and ordering takeout without using coupons. But damn it, why did this money seem endless? Every day, I spent less than the interest it was earning. Suddenly drowning in wealth, I didn't even know how to spend extravagantly. I googled what lottery winners do with their money: buying cars, investing in real estate, stocks, funds. All strategies for making more money. Not a single suggestion for reckless spending. Humans. Greedy creatures, always wanting more. Couldn't they just enjoy life and stop overthinking? 2 minutes later, I was researching low-risk, high-return investment options. After an hour of jargon overload, my head spun. Frustrated, I tossed my phone aside. Forget it. You can't make money outside your realm of understanding. Almost every article I read listed buying property as the top priority, which left a bitter taste in my mouth. I thought back to the day I landed my first job. I'd been so proud and happy, I treated Ethan to dinner. One step closer to my goal, I'd said, grinning ear to ear. As the eldest sibling in my family, I had 2 younger brothers to make room for. When they started school, my parents forced me to give up my bedroom and move out to the balcony. 2 flimsy screens served as my walls, failing to shield me from the embarrassment and discomfort. My parents justified it by saying it was easier to monitor me for distractions, like dating, and besides, girls were destined to marry out anyway. Why would I need my own room? After yet another incident where my brothers spied on me changing clothes, I made a vow: one day, I'd have a place of my own. A real bedroom. A proper balcony. When I shared this dream with Ethan, he'd listened quietly for a long time before nodding. "You'll have it," he said. Then he'd asked me what my next goal was. Naively, I blurted out, "To fill that little house with cats and dogs with you." He'd laughed. Looking back, he probably already knew he wanted to break up with me. There you were, mocking me again. I turned over in bed, feeling miserable. The aftermath of being dumped hit me harder than I'd imagined. Just as I was contemplating taking a trip to clear my head, my best friend called. "Ugh, Lily, please be my sugar mama. I don't want to work hard anymore, ugh." I decided we'd go crazy together after she finished her next 2 exams. Every day, I made sure she got up to study, spent my free time gossiping with her, and even experimented with a few nutritious snacks to help her focus. "I think I don't miss him as much," I confessed late one night. Half asleep, Lily mumbled, "That's normal." Not even a minute later, I bit the corner of my blanket and whimpered, "But I still miss him. I want to be rich, sure, but I also want him back. Does that make me too greedy?" Her voice was laced with exhaustion, understandable. "What if I text him, beg him to take me back? Do you think it could work?" Lily was silent for a few seconds, before taking a deep breath. "Can you get a grip? You've got money and free time now. There are so many ways to distract yourself. Stop pining for that ex-sugar daddy who's clearly over you." "Fine." I buried my face in the blanket and mumbled, "Tomorrow, I'll re-download the game and flirt with 10 or so guys there, just to prove I can." Lily didn't reply. After a while, she crawled over to me, grabbed my face with frustration, and growled, "Snap out of it. The only guys you'll flirt with in that game are middle schoolers and wannabe bad boys. Forget it. Once I'm done with exams, I'll take you out to see the real world." "The real world? What kind of real world?" Did she mean male models and those, professional flirts? I've met those before. During my first year with Ethan, I went to a birthday party his friends threw for him. It was at an upscale club in New York. At every corner, there were scantily clad men and women. None of the guys were as handsome as Ethan, nor did they have his physique. The only thing they had going for them was their sweet-talking skills, which could melt anyone's heart. Too bad I didn't get to hear much of it before Ethan, with a stormy expression, dragged me back home. I had to endure his sarcastic remarks all night, mixed with his fiery, intense embrace. But why is it that the one who burned the brightest grew cold first? It's cruel. Unable to sleep, I finally re-downloaded the game. Distracting myself seemed like a good idea. Cocooned in my blanket, the phone's glow stung my eyes. I squinted as the interface loaded. After clicking through a barrage of welcome back rewards and promotional pop-ups, I opened my friends list. That's when I noticed a new message. Ethan, reply when you see this. The timestamp was 6 days ago. The previous message? 4 years old. Back then, I'd told him I was quitting the game to focus on real life, and he'd wished me well. This guy. Oh, I remember now. The summer after high school, I played as a gaming companion to earn some extra cash. Ethan was a random teammate in one match. After we added each other as friends, he invited me to play duos. When he found out I was doing it for money, he outright bought out my time. Later, I found a part-time job and stopped gaming. But every now and then, I'd log in, and we'd play together. Sorry, just saw this. What's up? I couldn't think of any reason why he'd contact me after 4 years. Did he still remember my skills? Or, was he trying to get a refund? He'd sworn he was of age and wouldn't ask for his money back the next morning. As soon as I woke up, I checked the chat. No reply. Maybe he messaged the wrong person. Just as I was about to exit, his grayed-out profile picture lit up. Almost instantly, a new message popped up. Where did you disappear to without a word? Was he asking about what I'd been up to these past few years? Studying, dating, working, and now single again. Single? His surprise was palpable. Suddenly, I felt embarrassed. I'd quit the game to focus on life, spent 3 years dating Ethan seriously, and then got dumped out of the blue. So humiliating. But I still replied honestly, it's normal. People break up when they get tired of each other. His response came quickly, tired? Who got tired? How does that even happen? I thought about how, just a week ago, I'd been naive enough to dream about our future. With a sigh, I typed back, there's no such thing as forever. I was just foolish. The word foolish got flagged as inappropriate. I rephrased, I was just dumb. Dumb got flagged too. Frustrated, I changed it to clown. Staring at that word, I froze for a moment before breaking down completely. Finally, I sent, it was me. I got tired. Seeing his string of question marks, I felt even more shattered. What's so strange about that? Nobody spends their whole life fixated on one guy. Biting my lip, I continued my meltdown. There are plenty of young and exciting options out there. He didn't reply for a long time. I eventually fell asleep again and woke up to see his response, a simple smiley face, followed by 4 words. Good for you. For I wasn't sure what was so good, but at least the days of waiting for Lily's exams to be over were less dull now. It felt like 3 years ago again, when Ethan and I used to play together. Back then, I'd chat endlessly while he silently typed his responses. Now, with Lily needing peace to study, I kept my mic muted. Ethan, however, kept his mic on but didn't say a word until the 3rd match. Come get the blue buff, his voice suddenly crackled through my headset. I froze in the middle of the river. Until Ethan was abruptly taken out by some unexpected opponent in the game, he finally snapped back to reality. Sorry. He paused, letting out a faint chuckle. Sorry for what? It was uncanny. Really uncanny. But his voice seemed a bit deeper. Your voice sounds just like my ex-boyfriend's. On the other side, a voice laced with feigned indifference replied, Oh, should I mute then? Weren't you tired of him? No need, you can keep talking. After sending the message, I suddenly remembered something, but my typing couldn't keep up with the respawn countdown, so I had to delete everything for now. So, his speech impairment was gone, huh? Ethan had once caused his best friend to become physically disabled due to an accident. The psychological trauma had left him unable to speak for a long time. If he could communicate normally now, he must have moved past it, right? Thinking about it, it was probably better not to reopen old wounds. Halfway through the game, my stressed-out best friend burst in, crying as she hugged me. I don't want to take the exam anymore, maybe I should just find a job instead. Distracted, I tried to comfort her with a couple of sentences, only for her to pinch my cheeks and demand, what's more important, me or the game? Me or those blonde-headed characters? I gave up. It was a losing game anyway, so I simply initiated a surrender. You're surrendering already? Yeah, logging off. In such a hurry, something up? Yeah, my clingy bestie needs comforting. Whoa, new flame? Why was he always so confrontational? I frowned, quickly replying, I'll log back in later. But he wouldn't let it go. Later, as in when? You're not lying, are you? You better mean what you say. I'll wait right here. I took off my headset, and the world finally quieted down. Yet, a subtle feeling lingered in my heart. Even his tone was so similar. After treating my best friend, Lily, to a hearty meal, we took a walk to digest. Passing by an unremarkable storefront, she suddenly stopped in her tracks. Let's come here next week, okay? Sure, but what is this place? The most exclusive club in New York. Top-notch quality. I got it. She was still hung up on giving me a taste of the high life. Honestly, there was no need. I hadn't gotten over Ethan yet, and other men just didn't interest me. Why don't you focus on your studying first? After your exams, we can go out and have fun. But... She tugged at my arm. Next week's your birthday. I had completely forgotten about that. For the past 2 years, I'd always celebrated my birthday with Ethan. Now, the thought of it left a hollow feeling in my chest. Come on, come on. It'll be so lonely with just the two of us at home. It'll be much more lively if we go out. The word together struck a chord in my heart. But I stuck to my boundaries, shaking my head. I don't like places like that. Seeing that I wouldn't budge, she reluctantly gave up. After the walk, we indulged in some late-night snacks, and by the time I got home, it was already past 10 p.m. It's so late, he probably isn't online. But when I logged in, his avatar was lit. Before I even opened the chat box, a team invite popped up on my screen. I was the first to speak. Sorry, got held up with something and came on late. He didn't reply, the only sound being his slightly uneven breathing. Not starting the game? It's been a while. Ethan paused, his tone inexplicably strained. It's been a long time since I heard your voice. It had indeed been a while. I glanced toward the bathroom. My friend's in the shower, so I can talk now. But I'll mute again once she's done. As soon as I finished speaking, it felt like he'd stopped breathing altogether. Was the connection lagging? This wasn't going anywhere. I was already feeling a bit tired and was about to suggest playing tomorrow instead when Ethan coldly interjected, "You really do have a new flame." That was fast. Am I interrupting your fun? I couldn't ignore the biting sarcasm in his words. Typical men, they're always the harshest to each other. Whether I had someone new or not had nothing to do with him, and it certainly wasn't his place to stick up for Ethan. But when I opened my mouth, honesty spilled out, "There's no one new. It's just my best friend. She's studying for exams." Ethan stayed silent for a while, and then a long, drawn-out breath came through the headset, as if he'd been holding it in. "Oh, a best friend, huh?" He paused again before asking, "LA?" I froze for a moment. LA was my hometown. How did he know that? Then it dawned on me. It wasn't surprising, I must have mentioned it to him during those endless chats over the summer. I just didn't expect him to remember so well. New York. Ah. His voice carried the sound of crisp keyboard clicks. Not many testing centers there. Have you booked a place to stay yet? No need. We live nearby, I stopped myself abruptly. After all, he was still a stranger to me. I instinctively switched topics, are we playing or not? If not, I'm logging off, it's late, and we should rest. Don't go. He stopped me. Stay for 5 more minutes. To talk about what? How to make sure you don't get tired of me. I wanted to ask Ethan the same thing, how to keep love fresh and unfading. I didn't even know the answer myself. But since he'd brought it up, I had no choice but to give a textbook response. Be good looking, have a great physique, provide emotional support, and, be skilled. Are you saying I? He cleared his throat, his tone stiff. I'm not good enough? In every aspect, he was flawless, absolutely impeccable. If I continued down this path, I'd blow my cover. I scrambled for an excuse, stammering, he got fat. This part wasn't a lie. Near graduation, Ethan and I moved out of the dorms and started living together. Spending more time together, he would always find excuses to snuggle up with me whenever he had free time. His abs were still there, but they were visibly less defined than before. Oh. There was a good 10 seconds of silence on the other end, accompanied by faint rustling sounds of clothing. When he spoke again, his tone was stiff, I gotta go. You should get some sleep early. I glanced at the clock. It's not even been 5 minutes. Time to hit the gym. Feels urgent. I was taken aback. Men truly are incomprehensible creatures. Going to the gym in the middle of the night? My girlfriend ran off. I need to work harder to win her back. I froze for a moment, then managed a hesitant, oh. So that's why he suddenly contacted me, he was going through a breakup. But wait, does this even make sense? I straightened my tone seriously. That's kind of scummy. If you want to win her back, then focus on that. Using this time to flirt with another girl for some duo gaming fun? That's not okay. And what about you? He interrupted me abruptly. Aren't you doing the same thing right now? Spending time with a strange man? Duo gaming pretty ambiguous, don't you think? I was immediately at a loss for words, my cheeks heating up in an instant. I'm not like you. I've completely cut ties with my ex. To defend my dignity, I muttered in a small voice, besides, this is just killing time. If I really wanted to have fun, I'd be out clubbing and partying. His voice rose instantly. You? Clubbing? For a moment, I felt distracted. It was something Ethan would have asked. The thought of him being with Luna now, perhaps smoothly starting his next relationship, made me bite my lip. Out of spite, I raised my voice too. Yeah, every day I'd book 8 guys at a time. My best friend couldn't understand why I had a change of heart after just a shower. But she was thrilled nonetheless, and her enthusiasm even seemed to boost her study motivation. On my birthday, I put on the skimpy little dress she handed me. She hesitated several times before finally speaking. After all, we're going to indulge in some male eye candy. Dressing up too much might feel like we're spending money to please them. But she looked at me so eagerly, twisting her fingers with an anxious expression. Don't you like it, babe? I spent so long picking it out. I thought it'd suit you perfectly. I immediately nodded vigorously. I love it to death. A friend's feelings are what matter most. Spoiling the mood is practically a crime against humanity. So what if I'm surrounded by men I don't like? I just have to endure it. Yup. Not even 2 minutes after sitting down in the VIP lounge. Wow, I'm such a great actress. The sheer beauty surrounding me left me utterly disoriented. Those narrow waists, broad shoulders, and faces like sculptures under the dim purple and red lighting. Reason evaporated in the heady mix of perfume and cigar smoke. Miss, shall we open another bottle of Ace of Spades? Yes, open 10 bottles, miss. Aren't you cold in such a skimpy dress? Want me to drape something over you? Happily, I let his firm, warm chest muscles and abs drape over my back. One on my left, one leaning on my right, and another pressed against my back. Wave after wave of youthful testosterone left me dizzy. In front of me, a glass of Dosai sake ice cream was handed over at just the right moment. Miss, let me feed you. The handsome boy bit the end of the spoon, leaning in close. The floral scent of his cologne, warmed by his body heat, enveloped me like the arrival of spring. The mix of sake and cream melted in my mouth, and I felt a little intoxicated. Otherwise, why would Ethan suddenly come to mind? His brooding face was so out of place in this delightful atmosphere. I even imagined hearing his voice, light and mocking. Well, aren't you having fun? I really was. Never had I thought life could be this exciting. I savored the lingering taste of ice cream. I want more. Feed me another bite. Except the next bite didn't come. It was snatched away by a hand that seemingly appeared out of nowhere. A man who looked remarkably like Ethan stood before me, staring intently, and slowly placed that spoonful of ice cream into his mouth. Damn it, that's $50 a bite. How dare he eat it? Pay up. No, wait. Did I hire this guy? My foggy brain struggled to think, but before I could figure it out, my cheeks were suddenly cupped in his hands. His cool fingers pressed against my skin, sending a shiver down my spine. The man's voice was low. Open your mouth. Didn't you want to be fed? Oh no, this is not okay. Even though tonight had opened the door to a whole new world, it hadn't opened that door yet. But my sluggish nerves didn't close my mouth in time. The creamy chill touched my tongue, then his lips lingered, teasing and tangling. My brain buzzed. Who the hell are you? Stealing business like this, the complaints of the boys around us faded into the background, drowned out by the thunderous pounding in my chest. Though I was still nestled in the warm embrace of the male models, I suddenly felt my blood run cold. Something was off. This man. I struggled to push him away, but he pinched my earlobe lightly, instantly snapping my mind back into focus. Having kissed Ethan countless times before, I knew exactly what this little gesture meant. Focus. Focus, my ass, what was he doing here? In the end, my best friend yanked Ethan away. She was drunk, slurring her words. What's your employee number? Don't you know how to follow the rules? When she finally got a good look at his face, her expression turned dumbfounded. Huh? She glanced at me, then at Ethan. Lily, I think I've had too much to drink. I'm actually seeing your ex-boyfriend, haha. Ethan's face was emotionless as he directed the people behind him, take this lady home and make sure she studies. If her accuracy doesn't hit 80, don't let her sleep. Who gave you the right to make things hard for her? I tried to stand up to stop him, but the handsome guy behind me still had his arm around my waist. I couldn't get up and instead plopped right back down. The guy behind me let out a dramatic ouch, his voice dripping with playful mischief. Oh, sweetheart, you want more? Let's do it again. Ethan's face turned dark, and he slammed a black card onto the table, his tone as cold as ice. Get lost. The farther, the better. The warmth behind me vanished in an instant. Not just the warmth, every attractive guy around me disappeared from sight. They moved so fast it left after images. I was stunned. A jacket, still warm from his body, was thrown over my head. Put it on. The leather sofa sank slightly as he sat beside me. The sharp, clean scent of him drove away the lingering perfume in the air. I clutched the jacket and slowly gathered my wits. Why did it feel like I'd just been caught in the act? I tried to scoot away, but I couldn't move. A large hand gripped my waist. Ethan's dangerously handsome face was mere inches from mine. In a rush to leave? The night is still young. I'll play along with you. He glanced at the table, the corner of his mouth curling up. Since you've ordered so much, it'd be a shame to waste it, right, Lily? The way he said my name, with deliberate pauses, carried an undercurrent of suppressed anger. Even someone as dense as me could pick up on it. I felt inexplicably guilty. What's his problem? We'd broken up, why does he care if I have fun? Seriously, it's unfair. I didn't even care what he's been up to. Come on, tell me. How do you want to play? He grabbed my wrist and forced my hand under his shirt, pressing it against his abs. You seemed pretty eager to touch earlier. What's stopping you now? A fruit platter was pushed in front of me. Which one do you want? I'll feed you. What, you don't want any? Full already? Maybe you should vomit some out first, then eat again? I shrank back instinctively. Ethan, I'm a bit tired. I'd like to go home. Home? He let out a cold laugh, like he'd just heard the most absurd joke. You've spent all your money here. Do you even have a home to go back to? I had no idea what he was talking about. Was he upset that I used his breakup compensation to hire male models? Knowing Ethan's petty, possessive nature, I guess that would be a bit much for him. He was probably fuming. I gave an awkward laugh, trying to defuse the situation. It's because you're so generous. Ethan pointed at himself incredulously. I look like a generous person to you? I nodded furiously like a pecking chicken. Yes, generous, super generous. That breakup compensation was enough for me to buy a house. He paused, his expression shifting. Breakup compensation? What breakup compensation? I don't remember giving you anything like that. Oh no, he's not going to ask for it back, is he? Frantically, I pulled out my phone and opened my transfer history. Look, see? Breakup compensation. The club's music was loud and the air thick with smoke and excitement. But in our corner, the atmosphere seemed frozen solid. After a long silence, Ethan spoke, his voice strained. You thought this was breakup compensation? What else could it be? It's not like you gave it to me to buy a house, right? Ha ha, ha. My dry laughter died as his face turned even darker. Is there a possibility, Ethan said, taking a deep breath, his eyes like still water, that it was, in fact, for you to buy a house? What? Seeing my dumbfounded expression, he closed his eyes briefly and gritted his teeth. That was your birthday present. Ethan was so furious, he didn't say a word on the drive back. I felt wrong too. Who asked such an important question in a moment of such distraction? Anyone normal would interpret a passion-drenched, "Do you want it?" as consent, and a breathless, "Do you like it?" as feedback, right? I had shyly said yes and given my approval. And now he tells me he was seriously asking if I wanted an apartment by his office as a birthday gift? Ridiculous. What about all those nights I spent biting my pillow in frustration and anguish? Does that just count as my ability to endure? I've been keeping an eye on all 11 clubs in the city, rotating through them every night. Afraid I'd see you, but also afraid I wouldn't. Oh, so he's been enduring too. Because someone complained I'd gained 2 pounds, I've been hitting the gym during the day to shed the weight. It's exhausting. His tone was dripping with resentment. Someone? His Luna, I bet. He's really going all out. Hope he doesn't drop dead from overexertion. I pulled the blanket out from under him with a blank expression. Then go to bed. I'm leaving. I turned to walk away. Wait. He grabbed my hand. It's the middle of the night. Where are you going? You were so eager to check in earlier at the front desk. That was then. Now, I'm annoyed. I shook off his hand. My friend drank too much. I'm going to check on her. You don't need to worry about her. Why not? He tapped to connect a video call. Oh. Yeah, I guess I don't. Her face was flushed, and she was flanked by 2 shirtless, toned guys. One of them on the right lifted his shirt, revealing abs. Want me to take it off? Solve this problem first. The left side was already stripped bare as the small whip was handed over. You're so harsh, Ethan. Unlike me, I only care about my sister. Go ahead, take out all your stress on me. For every law I recite, give me a whip. Ethan ended the call for me. You into this kind of thing? I snapped out of my shock. What? You should have said so earlier. His eyes dropped, a hint of grievance in his tone. I can learn. He seemed to be waiting for me to deny it, but instead, I nodded honestly. I like it. Starting today, I like it. Ethan held back and held back, finally compromising. Fine, I'll learn. As long as you don't get bored. Huh? That sounded oddly familiar. I racked my brain for a while, then a ridiculous thought struck me. No way. In disbelief, I asked cautiously, how did you know I was in New York City? He let out an almost imperceptible sigh and pulled me onto his lap. Idiot, you still haven't figured it out? I was stunned. Your ass? The world collapsed around me. So we've known each other for that long? Then. During the time I was sending all those text messages, spilling my girlish secrets, ranting about family dramas, and gossiping about the cat and dog downstairs, didn't he hear all of it? How else do you think I knew? But, you're the young master of the Carter family. From years of reading bossy billionaire novels on Wattpad, I deduced that if he just waved his hand and told his assistant to either find me alive or bring back my body, it'd be game over. Do you think I'm some sort of mafia lord? Ethan couldn't help but chuckle, his voice softening. Lily, the world is so big. If you truly wanted to leave, I wouldn't be able to find you. It felt like a hand was squeezing my heart, a bittersweet ache spreading through me. These past days, I've been thinking endlessly, day and night, trying to figure out where it all went wrong. Though I knew this tender moment should be about heartfelt confessions, I, as usual, killed the mood. Ethan, we can talk about this tomorrow. You need to sleep first. I was genuinely worried he might collapse. Ethan lowered his gaze, his eyes landing on my little dress, the temperature in the room rising. Sleep tomorrow. First, let's get to business. The bow tied at the back of my neck was gently pulled loose, and my chest was suddenly bare. I scrambled to cover up, but he pinned my hands down. Ethan stared at me for a long moment, then slowly leaned closer. Heat blossomed across my chest, trailing upward and blooming on my lips. His puppy dog eyes held mine intently, darkening bit by bit, his voice hoarse and raspy. Do you want it? He moved his hips slightly, leaving no room for misinterpretation. But to avoid any bizarre misunderstandings, I had to confirm. So I poked at his hardness with my finger. You mean this? Ethan froze for a second, then burst out laughing, his warm breath teasing my ear. Yes, your big brother's. He didn't finish. A phone call interrupted the moment. The desire in Ethan's eyes faded as he let me go. Sophia, don't worry. I'll be back right away. Sophia, his Luna. 10, he said he could use the flight time to catch some sleep, but I, fueled by anger, dragged him back to bed, forcing him to close his eyes and rest until morning. It's my birthday today. You have to listen to me. Ethan hesitated for 2 seconds, before obediently lying down, pulling me into his arms. All right. I'll listen to you. I knew he hadn't really rested well. He was silently worried the entire time. She just had her final surgery and returned from abroad. She's not adjusting well and is emotionally unstable. I opened the plane's window shade and stared at the sea of clouds for a moment before turning to him. Final surgery? Ethan nodded, then seemed to catch on, raising an eyebrow at me. Jealous? No. Love often feels like a debt, but guilt isn't love. I understood that. I just felt a little sad. Sophia used to be the principal ballerina of a renowned troupe. 4 years ago, she finally had the chance to perform at the Bolshoi Theater in Moscow. It was an opportunity she had dreamed of and worked towards for over a decade, but the mental pressure reached an unprecedented peak. The physical toll was so severe she couldn't eat or sleep. As her longtime friend, Ethan couldn't bear to see it and insisted on taking her on a trip to relax. Fate has a way of blindsiding you. At an intersection with a zero-accident record, an out-of-control vehicle appeared out of nowhere, heading straight for Ethan's side. At the crucial moment, Sophia pulled him toward her, shielding him with her arm. The horrific accident claimed no lives, but the price was Sophia's left arm, which was so damaged that she could no longer lift it on her own. The swan's wings had been broken. 11 I met Sophia at Ethan's house. Her gaze didn't linger on me, skipping over as if I were air, landing directly on Ethan behind me. I want the butterfly pastries from the Ritz. Sure. Ethan agreed immediately. I'll have someone get them. By the way, let me introduce you. This is, I want you to get them. Her interruption was abrupt, and the room fell silent for a moment. No problem. Ethan nodded toward the butler. Get a room ready. The butler glanced at me briefly, hesitant. Should we move Miss Lily to another room? Oh, it seems the beautiful room overlooking the garden is already taken, Ethan remarked casually, unsurprised. His tone was calm as he added, I meant my room. Lily and I will share. He gently squeezed my hand, taking the opportunity to hold it firmly. Come on, let's see if there's anything you'd like to eat. I didn't move. I want to take a nap. Last night was a bit tiring. Ethan's face instantly darkened, his voice lowering in displeasure. I'll deal with you later. It was 3 hours before Ethan returned, carrying a bunch of delicious goodies. Pick something, he said. I immediately pointed to a bag of butterfly pastries. I want that one. All right. When he took it out, I realized he had bought 2 portions. What if she wants both? She can't eat that much. At most, she'll have a bite to taste. But what if she really wants both? Ethan pulled up a chair, sitting down in front of me and carefully opening the packaging. Sophia's recovery from this surgery should allow her to return to a relatively normal life. Does that mean you're finally free? He handed me a piece of the pastry. How does it taste? I chewed and chewed, it was so sweet. Delicious. A faint smile appeared on Ethan's face as he reached out to wipe the corner of my mouth. What I've done for her isn't merely out of guilt, she's one of my closest friends. But even so, no matter how much she might want something, I won't take away what's meant for you to give to her. The mistakes I've made in the past will never involve you. You'll never have to bear any grievances because of them. Our relationship belongs to us alone, and no one else. It was sincere, his true feelings. I pressed down on his hand, which was starting to wander downward. All right, I get it. Now hurry up and take those to her. Why are you so eager to push your boyfriend out the door? Ethan, clearly displeased, snatched the half pastry from my hand and shoved it into his mouth, mumbling, no matter how close the friendship, it's not appropriate to be alone in a room together. He called in the butler, handed him the large bag of food, and gave a few instructions before shutting the door. Then, he turned back to me with a mischievous look. Now, let's talk about what made you so tired. What exactly were you up to before I found you? Even though Ethan had made his stance clear, it didn't stop Sophia from continuing her blatant provocations and unreasonable demands. Dinner was chaotic, with Sophia constantly directing Ethan to serve soup, dish out food, and even peel clams for her. Clams, those tiny morsels you suck out for a hint of flavor, and she wanted him to peel them for her. I immediately demonstrated the proper way, slurping loudly as I devoured one. It was textbook. Her cheeks puffed up in frustration, and she finally quieted down. Later that evening, the butler knocked on the door, looking visibly uncomfortable. Miss Sophia is asking if Mr. Ethan could come to her room. Ethan was about to take a shower and replied offhandedly, if she needs something, she can text me. It's too late, she should rest. I stayed silent. Declining his offer to shower together, I waited until he was in the bathroom before sneaking out. When Sophia opened the door and saw me, her eyebrows shot up in surprise. Couldn't sit still? I nodded. Is Ethan getting impatient with me? I shook my head. She clicked her tongue softly. Don't you have any temper at all? After thinking for a moment, I replied, I feel a bit sad. Sad is good, Sophia said, leaning against the doorframe. Don't hold back. Go confront Ethan. Demand to know what's really going on between us. I interrupted her slowly, I'm sad because you should be Luna, the radiant swan, not the villain from a bad script. She froze. What? Ethan had often mentioned Sophia in the past, a dance prodigy, a rising star who shone brilliantly. Stars dimmed because of him, leaving her a shadow of her former self. It's no wonder her psyche became a little twisted. But these childish antics that caused no real harm? At most, they showed she had been deliberate about being deliberate. I had stayed behind instead of going out with Ethan, curious about her intentions. Yet she hadn't tried to bother me at all. Every time she issued a bossy demand, her hands clenched tightly at the hem of her clothes, her eyes darted nervously, and her body stiffened. Like an introverted person forcing themselves to act extroverted, her behavior was unnaturally awkward. She was forcing herself. Trying to make Ethan lose patience and completely give up on her. There's no need for this. No matter how unreasonable or demanding you are, you can't erase his sense of responsibility. But all you'll do is wear down the friendship he's cherished for so many years. In the end, he'll still take care of you, but his concern will turn cold, reduced to a duty. You don't want that, do you? She stayed silent. I had hit the mark. I exhaled softly. If you genuinely want him to let go of his guilt and find peace, why not show him you're living well? Did he send you to say this? No. He probably never would. After a long pause, she let out a quiet laugh. You seem kind of dumb, but you're surprisingly articulate. I've told him countless times over these 2 years that I've moved on and never regretted anything. But the more sincerely I said it, the more his expression darkened. I understood too well. Even as an outsider, I had once been so moved by her story that I couldn't sleep, scrolling through my phone late at night searching for updates about her. Let alone Ethan, who had grown up with her by his side. I must have let my emotions show too clearly because she suddenly reached out and pinched my cheek. I've always known about you. That long, hot summer, Ethan only ever smiled a little when he played games with you. Lifting my gaze, Sophia had already stood upright and walked further inside. The bag of butterfly pastries was left untouched on the table. Later, when you said you were done, he spiraled into a zombie-like state for a long time. Noticing my concern, he started having flings that barely lasted a month, putting on this whole carefree charade, pretending to live a normal life, until he ran into you again. I was momentarily stunned. Ethan was 2 years ahead of me in school. By all accounts, we shouldn't have had any reason to cross paths. One seemingly unremarkable day during the second semester of my freshman year, I had just wrapped up the daily broadcast for the campus radio club. Pushing the door open to leave, I saw him sitting by the doorway, holding a basketball, waiting quietly for me. Wow, a big dog. That was the random thought that popped into my head at the time. The big dog's bright eyes followed me as I walked by. March 1st, was that goodnight story on the blog narrated by you? He asked. Worried there was an issue, I nervously pulled out my phone, ready to contact the club president. But Ethan curved his eyes into a smile and leaned in slightly. It was absolutely amazing. I'd heard many reasons for a heart-skipping confession before, but someone confessing because they loved my voice? That was a first. Only now do I realize it wasn't just because my voice was pleasant. It was because my voice belonged to me. Sophia picked up her phone, sent a few messages, and then tilted her head slightly toward me with a teasing look. Aren't you worried I might stir the pot? Who knows, I could be tattling to Ethan about you bullying me. Even if you did, Ethan wouldn't believe it, I replied confidently. That kind of trust they had it, and Ethan and I had it too. How nice, she murmured, putting her phone away. I've asked a friend to come pick me up. I don't want to stay here another second. Being with friends is so much more comfortable. She was in quite the rush, leaving in the middle of the night. I took a step closer, hesitating as I asked, if your arm's nerve recovery goes well, will you go back on stage? Probably not. This industry moves fast, and I've already missed the prime age for it. Her gaze lingered on my face, and she quickly stopped herself mid-sentence. But now, when I want to dance, it's actually more freeing. I can choose my own music, my own time, my own place. Actually, I've started learning to paint recently. It's pretty fun. The night breeze fluttered the sheer curtains. Standing by the window, Sophia seemed to embody beauty itself. She would never know that, for years ago, there was a girl who was genuinely moved by her. Moved by her resilience in chasing her dreams. Moved by her strength in persevering through rehabilitation. A sudden lightness lifted from my heart. How wonderful. My once distant Luna was truly as radiant as the moon. Wish you all the best, I said, my words stumbling slightly. After awkwardly finishing my sentence, I stepped out and closed the door behind me for her. Turning around, my eyes widened slightly. Ethan was leaning against the wall in his pajamas. Who knows how long he had been standing there. Just as I was about to speak, he shook his head and placed a finger to his lips, signaling for silence. I kept my mouth shut and followed him back to the room. The moment the door was closed, I couldn't help grabbing him. Ugh, that's so unfair, how could you eavesdrop? How much did you hear? He let me vent, his tone unbothered. Oh, just bits and pieces. Something about how you're even prettier than imagined, if she can have your contact info, what kind of painting you're learning. Ha, who would have thought? While I wasn't paying attention, you went and tried to steal my friend's heart, with even more sincerity than you've shown me. My face flushed red. That's not true, why are you jealous of your best friend? Can't I get to know someone as amazing as her? It doesn't even affect you. Lily, Ethan interrupted softly, his teasing tone vanishing, replaced by something serious. I blinked at him in slight confusion. Thank you. Thank me? Before I could even wonder why, he shifted the subject entirely. But jealousy? That's still non-negotiable. His arm wrapped around my waist. And as for the emotional debts you owe me from your little flirty past? You're definitely going to pay those back.